Don't just live for tomorrow, or just live in yesterday. Just be glad for all you have that's in today. And though you've come through many obstacles.
Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my blind reaction to The King's Man. So this is a donation reward for Venom0027, and this is a movie I've wanted to see for quite a long time, pretty much since before it came out, obviously. So, I have seen the first two Kingsman movies, and I know that this is a prequel that is, I guess, supposed to show the origin of the organization. I don't know who's in this, like in terms of actors and all, but I do know that Taron Egerton is not, because his character doesn't really, he's not born yet, so he wouldn't be there at this point in time. And I think none of the same characters are returning because, again, I think it takes place well beforehand. So none of them would be alive. But I'm very curious to see what we do cover here. Because, like, if this is the Kingsmen organization start, how does that coincide with the Statesmen, for example? The U.S. counterpart. Did they come after the fact? I don't remember if that was mentioned in Kingsman 2. I just don't remember if it was mentioned which one came first. I can presume that probably the Statesmen came after because America likes to steal shit from people. But to be fair, the UK has done a lot of that too. Both countries are really well known for stealing a lot of other people's shit and putting it on display. But in all seriousness, these movies are pretty fun. They're over the top, they're hyper violent, and very stylized with it. The church scene from the first Kingsman movie is absolutely one of the greatest action scenes in cinema. And I think most people would agree with that. It is so well shot. It is so well choreographed. Like, every actor in that scene, like, executes their role perfectly. It is such a phenomenally shot, like, moment in the history of film. And it's wild that the sequel, The Golden Circle, managed to stick the landing. And while maybe not better than the first movie, it was still just as good and still delivered just as many laughs, as many gasps, as many great action moments. Fucking Elton John was a badass and just hilarious in it. It was a great sequel. And now we have this one. There's apparently going to be another sequel to the original two, but this one acts as a prequel instead. So again, I believe this is like fully a prequel. I don't think there's going to be any connection really to the current day stuff. This is just going to show how the organization started. And I don't remember much of anything from the trailers, but I think I remember that Rasputin is in it, which I guess kind of gives you a period this would take place in. Grigory Rasputin, the Mad Monk of Russia, pretty famous name who's been used in a lot of media, such as the animated Anastasia movie, which is still an underrated classic in my opinion. And Christopher Lloyd does an amazing job as Rasputin in that. But yeah, it's like, I'm just interested to see how they portray him in this, because most of the portrayals seem to kind of portray him the same, like kind of this dark, creepy weirdo. So I'm interested to see exactly what they do with him in a series like this. But otherwise, I don't really know or at least remember anything about what this one's about. I'm very interested though, because as long as this one doesn't really do anything too bad, I mean, I assume it's probably going to be just as good as the others. I don't think I've heard what other people thought of it though. Like, unlike some movies I react to, I don't know if I've heard other people's opinions, and if I have, I forgot them clearly. So I don't know what other people think about this going in, but I'll definitely check out after the fact to see what they thought. But yeah, so this is a 2-hour movie, so we should probably get started because the day I'm recording this, I actually have to record this and the final Halloween special. So, ugh, 2 different movie recordings in one day. Fun. I can handle it. It's just it's procrastination, pure and simple. I procrastinated for so long on so many things, and this week was a big example of a lot of procrastination for me. So, but we're getting to it. Let's just get on with it. So when the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the movie. So, that being said, thank you so much for tuning in. And yeah, I will see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So, I wanted to look up some stuff here. First off, Stanley Tucci, yeah, he had like a beard and a wig on and everything, so it's like I wouldn't have recognized him. It was a very small role overall, not really too big in comparison. I do kind of wonder, though, if that means like his character in this was like an ancestor of his character in the other movies. I wonder if there's anything to that. But looking at this, reception-wise, on Rotten Tomatoes, which, as I always say, like, Rotten Tomatoes isn't the greatest source, but to mention it, the movie has an approval rating of 41% based on 176 reviews, with an average rating of 5.1. The site's critical consensus reads, Ralph Fiennes' solid central performance in The King's Man is done dirty by this tonally confused prequel's descent into action thriller tedium. On Metacritic, the film has a average score of 44 out of 100 based on 40 critics. Audiences polled by CinemaScore gave the film an average grade of B+ on an A+ to F scale, while PostTrack reported that 77% of audience members gave it a positive score, with 60% saying they would definitely recommend it. It doesn't go into anything further than that, like any specific reviews here. But let's just give my thoughts on it. This was very different than the other Kingsman films. The other ones are known for their exceptional camera work, their amazing action sequences, and just how over the top they can get. This one was a lot more restrained, and I don't know if that's part of the reason a lot of people dislike it. But I feel like the complaint of tonally inconsistent is completely bullshit, honestly. It's like I felt the tone was pretty strong throughout. Like, it keeps with the same tone and themes and ideals, and it's all the same thing. It feels like a put-together film. In fact, in some ways, I feel it feels more put together than the regular Kingsman film. The characters, for example, have a lot more depth to them. our main characters of Orlando and Conrad, for example, the father-son, they have way more depth to their characters than Eggsy did in the main series, the main movies, or his mentor, whose name I can't think of at the moment. But they have much more, and I'm not saying anything against the main movies or anything, but let's be honest, Eggsy and them were portrayed as like cool characters, and that's pretty much it. They had a little bit more to them, but not really a lot of depth that made them stand out in any notable way. They stood out for the action, for the excitement, for the fun of it all. I will say, though, the villain in this, the shepherd, ends up being Morton, is so much weaker than the villains in the other two Kingsman movies. I mean, in the first one, you had Sam fucking Jackson, and it's like, yeah, how do you beat him? And it's like the second movie, I forgot her name, but she did amazing as the villain in that one, too. And it's like, the villains in the first two Kingsman movie were far superior, as was the action. There were a couple moments of good action in this, such as the Rasputin fight, and there is the action choreography near the end while they're on the mountaintop and all, even in the fight against Morton especially. But overall, the action was not as over the top and unique as you would expect with a Kingsman film. And in a way, I understand why, but I'm also a little let down by it, because the thing is, they're not the Kingsmen throughout pretty much the entire film. It's the precursor to the Kingsmen. It's what creates the organization. And yeah, they're trained and they're really skilled and all, but the characters we see in this aren't quite that kind of character yet. So showing the precursor to the Kingsmen as not being as cool or as always competent as you would expect is actually, in my eyes, a good choice. Because it shows that they still had work to do when creating the Kingsmen to perfect that kind of, I guess you could say, brand. To really hammer that in. And Orlando himself, I feel like, was a good example of that throughout the film, because, like, while very capable, he also fell into Rasputin's trap. He was tricked a number of times. He was extremely emotional and was kind of clumsy, honestly. He wasn't the most well put together person, but I think that's a good thing sometimes, because it allows him to feel more human in a way. Sometimes when you have these movies where your hero or just a character in general is so well put together and so competent, it feels fake. Like, it doesn't feel realistic. It feels like something that could not exist in reality. And the original two Kingsman film, they did make these characters human, very much so. Prone to things like anger and mistakes and amnesia and shit. And it made them, like, very much characters you could connect with. But this one did it so much better. I will agree to that. While certain aspects of this movie did not live up to the first two movies by any means, you can kind of see why they didn't. At least from a production standpoint and all. And there are certain things that I feel were done better. Overall, what do I think of this compared to the regular films? I would say this is the weakest Kingsman film so far, overall. Just from a personal enjoyment perspective, a personal entertainment perspective. I would much rather watch the first two again, and I've watched those multiple times. I would much rather watch those again than I would watch this again. But I would still watch this again. I still enjoyed this. I still had a blast with it. It was 2 hours long, and it really didn't feel like 2 hours. There was never a point where I felt like it was dragging or it was too much. And the acting performances definitely sold it. The acting performances were all fantastic. Not a single one I felt was wasted. There were some characters who could have been used a little more, but like Daniel Bruhl's character. But I feel for like what his character was doing, he was in there as he needed to be. And yeah, I very much enjoyed it. I thought it was a good movie. Maybe not the best of the Kingsmen, but still very good. So, let me know in the comments below, what did you think of The King's Man? And apparently, from what I'm reading here, there might be a sequel about like the first decade of the Kingsman Agency with the characters that we all see at the end. But I think I heard there's going to be like another like main series like movie, like a sequel to the to Kingsman 2, The Golden Circle. Let me see if I can find information on that here. I'll just check in the Golden Circle page. Yeah, there is a third Kingsman film planned. And then it was eventually revealed that there were two in development. The prequel was released, and that Edgerton has said he will portray the character of Eggsy in future installments. In December 2021, Vaughn revealed that filming on the sequel will begin in September 2022 for a 2023 release, but Edgerton believes that the third film will start in 2023. So I guess no future information on it since then. So I don't think we're going to get it for probably a couple more years, but there does seem to be that a third film, like a third film in the trilogy, is still planned. This is a separate prequel that just sets everything that we've already seen up. But Eggsy will return at some point. But yeah, let me know your thoughts down below on this movie either way. And for now, I'm Connie and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.